After having to abandon Pintastic in 2020 because of the pandemic, I was thrilled to find out that they had done it for this year, a little late in the year in November, but they had their 3-day event. And what I want to do today, I've done a few walkthroughs of Pintastic, and it's back in Sturbridge. And what I wanted to do is give you a longer look at the pinball machines. The other videos I made, I pretty much tried to rush through the event. But here I want to show you the variety of machines, and they had a lot of really classic ones here, including this wonderful Atlantis, and they were all playing in really good shape. Out of Sight, Liberty Bell you can see there, a lot of really well-known machines. Bonanza, which had the old plunger on the right to push the ball out, the ball launcher. There's a 2001, which had nothing to do with the Kubrick movie, and you see Grand Slam there. And Melody is one of my favorite old wedge heads. Really fun machine. I really enjoyed playing that one. Team 1. So they had machines that were themed to baseball, football. Here's Rick and Morty. Fairly new machine. There's NASCAR. Just a wide variety of all sorts of machines, and the place was packed. Lots and lots of people here. So that was just really good to see pinball coming back. Royal Rumble. And there's Gorgar, one of the first machines with a voice chip in it. It was also good to see a lot of women at this event, and a lot of young kids. So it's always thrilling when pinball keeps branching out and attracting more and more people. This, I love. This is the Sega Lost in Space with the big B9 robot on top. That was a really fun machine. Most of the machines were working in really good condition, but you'll see a few that were dark. The owners were there through most of it, and they would come right over with their kits and they would get the machine working again. One reason that pinball died out from arcades is because they're complicated pieces of machinery and require some TLC to keep them going. And a lot of owners in the venues just didn't want to put the time into the expense. I'm a big Ted Zale fan who worked for Bally, and over here they had Wiggler, which is one of his great machines with the zipper flippers on it. Had a really good time playing that one. There's a Guns N' Roses machine. And then behind me right here is a Strike Zone. I've never seen one at one of these shows before, but this is a shuffle bowl machine. That was a lot of fun. There's Red Baron, another classic machine. That's from Chicago Coin. It's very rare to see a Chicago Coin machine these days. Over here, the Attack from Mars was a digital version of it. And sitting next to all these physical pinball machines, it really paled in comparison. But it's a good way for some people to have a pinball machine in their home if they can't afford a real one. There's Sonic Spinball. Some of these machines I had never seen before either. There's Pincraft, which was a pinball version of Minecraft. Right next to a Metallica machine that was blasting Metallica music all day. You can also hear Steve Winwood somewhere singing Higher Love, and I have no idea what machine that was coming from. It certainly was not coming from a Metallica machine, but I don't know. All these machines now basically can play anything, so you never know. It's not coming from Shootout either. There's the classic Evel Knievel pinball machine that was a huge seller for Bally. Many of these machines were for sale, as they usually are at this event, and I did see a few sell while I was there. And there's the classic Bally Matahari, which was another big seller for them. And next to that is Pinbot. There were actually 2 Pinbot machines there in really good shape. And then right next to Pinbot, you see the Star Trek machine. There were 4 Star Trek machines, identical ones, with one exception that I'll show you a little later. But it was funny to see that many of these Star Trek machines when usually it was hard to find them anywhere. And there's Hurricane. There were 2 Hurricanes, and its sibling Cyclone was also there. You'll see that in a little bit. Now this machine was absolutely fascinating. This is a homemade machine. Hard to believe. It was designed and built and programmed from the ground up by this guy, Zach Fry. And if you look at the playfield, the amount of detail in it is amazing. Each drop target has a little tiny LCD screen, a color LCD screen that can change contextually. I mean, the programming involved in it must have been amazing. But it was essentially a pinball card game, and really fun, very, very well done. There's Sea Witch, which is another classic machine. There's the other Pinbot. And maybe this was their Halloween section with a Rob Zombie machine right next to an Alice Cooper machine. And over here is Fireball Classic, which was a remake of the brilliant Ted Zale Fireball machine with zipper flippers. There were actually 3 different Fireballs here, including the Classic. And there's another countdown. There's Firepower, one of my all-time favorite machines, Steve Ritchie design. And Hot Hand is pretty funny. It's got that gargantuan flipper at the top that spins around, knocking the ball around the targets there. There's Flash Gordon, another one of my favorite machines, and it was up and down during the day. There's another Star Trek machine. And this one is really interesting. I'm glad the guy lost the ball. No offense to him, but I'm glad he lost it because I wanted to get closer to this. It has all these little figurines that somebody had meticulously put in there. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it's pretty funny. They pay homage to the show. So you can see little Klingons in there with some trap balls and all these little characters hanging from wires. There's the Gorn, and there's the hand hanging onto the Enterprise. So all these little callbacks to the classic episodes. Somebody put a lot of time into that. This one over here looked like another homemade machine too. And of course, no Pinball Expo would be complete without at least one Addams Family machine. There were 2 at this particular event. It's, after all, the biggest selling pinball machine of all time. And there were 2 different Simpson pinball machines. I prefer the one on the right, the Data East version. And there's another one of the Fireball machines. This one, a Fireball Classic, without the zipper flippers, and it has different artwork on it too. And here's the original Fireball. which is my favorite, with the zipper flippers on it. Really challenging game. Another Ted Zale brilliant design. Over here is Earthshaker, which is one of the few pinball machines to have a shaker motor built into the cabinet so the whole machine shakes at certain times. There's the classic Black Hole, which is another brilliant game. Very tough with the sunken playfield in it. And one of my favorites, Superman, Atari's wide body. And over here are the cousins, Cyclone and Hurricane, which were the follow-ups to one of my all-time favorite machines, the Comet, which wasn't there. And there's Twilight Zone, which was Pat Lawler's follow-up to Addams Family, one of the most complicated machines ever made. This one was a little tricky to play. It didn't really behave the way I expected it to, but I'm glad it was there. And God bless whoever had to maintain it. And there's another well-known table, Flash, which is not to be confused with Flash Gordon. And here's another Gorgar. This one, the guy was working on it most of the day while I was there. Sorcerer's another well-known table. And Knockout. I loved all the vintage 1950s and 60s machines they had there, and here are a bunch of them over on this wall. Solar City was yet another version of El Dorado. It has a different rule set. Clubhouse is a lot of fun. And talk about vintage. This is a rare game from a company called Allswell from 1932, and it was working. Gator was another great Ted Zale machine. That's a lot of fun. And next to it you see the casino with the light-up cards in the back. Sing Along is another good game. It's modeled similar to Melody in the you have to match up colors along there. And Drop a Card, another famous machine. And this one I had never seen in person before, Dancing Lady, which has that little doll in the back box that spins around. And yet another Star Trek. And there's yet another Star Trek machine. I was really surprised they had all the same Star Trek machine, because there were so many different variants of Star Trek, including a great one by Data East, but that was the only one. There's Hot Shot, which is another amazing Gottlieb game. And Jungle Queen takes us back to Fireball, and that's it for the game room. So let's move on to the vendor's room. Now obviously at this point the pandemic hasn't really completely gone away, but as you might expect, with no real enforcement, the wearing of masks was spotty. They recommended masks at Pintastic, and they recommended constant hand washing. So, some people had masks, but the majority didn't. This is the main entrance that you would come in normally to the Sturbridge Conference Center. And there's the box office on the right, where you'd get your tickets if you didn't get them online. I got mine online, and it was a simple process to check in. So now let's go into the vendor's room, where there were a lot more pinball machines. Here's usually where a lot of the newer experimental machines are. A lot of Jersey Jack stuff here and other companies. And of course, as you might expect in a vendor's room, there are all sorts of parts for pinball: manuals, back glasses, decals, pretty much all the parts you would normally find. There weren't as many vendors here this year as in past years, but there were still a fair number of them. There were also, of course, all the way throughout the day, various seminars that were going on that you could go to for free. And over here was a big, pleasant surprise. Not Tales from the Crypt or Roadshow, because those are fairly common machines. Instead, it was Hercules, the largest commercial pinball machine ever built. And it was in really good shape. Normally, when I've seen these things at amusement parks, they're usually in a bit of a mess. They have dead flippers or they have dead bumpers, but this was working really nice. It's fun to play it. And I stand corrected, they did have Star Trek The Next Generation, the famous Williams machine. So that was in the vendor's room there. There are some nice play fields. And that's one of the nice things about owning a pinball machine now, is because there are so many vendors that make anything you could possibly need for whatever machine you have. So chances are, if you get an old beat-up machine from a tag sale or from an auction, you probably are in pretty decent shape to fix it up. You'll find parts. Now, it might not be cheap, but you will find parts to repair whatever pinball machine you have. Or you can find somebody who knows how to do it. And way at the back here, like it usually is every year, is the tournament area. So if you are interested in competing with other players, you can sign up and show your skills in the tournament area. I think they need more Godzilla machines. I've noticed a lot more pinball machines lately with band names and band themes. I mean, Beatles is probably the most widely known one, the Stern Beatles machine, which is really popular. But I saw, as you saw, Led Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses, I guess because they sell. People who like the band are more likely to get the pinball machine. I am so glad that Pintastic returned this year, even though it was a little later than usual. They had planned to move up near Boston, but I'm so glad they decided to return to Sturbridge, and it looks like it didn't affect the attendance much. They had a really good turnout, especially in difficult times. So I'm looking forward to next year playing more pinball at Pintastic New England.